Linda Gale, Wells, Andrew, Elizabeth, Betty, and all of the Whites' 9 remarkable grandchildren. Each of you were forever Mark's pride and joy. President Bush, Bill Spann, Shannon Ratliff, I am honored to share this platform with you. We were all honored to be Mark's friend. Linda, Chuck, Ian, and I wish with all of our hearts this day had not come. But I am grateful to have the opportunity to pay tribute to Mark White, who was my governor, my friend, and my inspiration. Do right and suffer the consequences. These words have been repeated over and over in tributes to Mark White. In a world where we quarrel about where people stand, we knew where Mark stood. He was about, as Sam Houston said, doing right and suffering the consequences. He was also about being willing to learn, to grow, and change for the better. He did all of this for the people of Texas. My friendship with Mark and Linda Gale began on the campaign trail. We sort of inherited each other. There were countless ties that bound us and always will. Mark's supporters had been my father's friends. Mark made friends for life and kept them because he never stopped working at it. As one of his countless friends said to me, if you only had one friend in the world, and that friend was Mark, you were a very lucky person. Mark had the gift of being able to laugh at himself. The world would be a better place if more of us could. When Mark lost a kidney to cancer, a friend told him that at 28, she too had lost a kidney. She wanted to share with Mark her doctor's advice. Don't get pregnant. For the rest of his life, Mark greeted her with, not pregnant yet. Like Daddy, Mark never lost faith in public life, even though their decisions to do right cost them both dearly. My father realized passing the great civil rights legislation that might cost his party the nation's support for an entire generation. He said, if that's the price I have to pay, I'll gladly pay it. So it was with Mark's support of landmark education legislation in Texas. This legislation limited elementary class size, incorporated no pass, no play for students, installed competency tests for teachers, and basic skill tests for high school graduation. Mark passed these great reforms and raised the taxes to pay for them. He was ultimately defeated for having done so, but he, like my father, had no regrets. On the campaign trail, I saw Linda Gale give her all for Mark, over and over and over again. She always did her homework. Greeting each demanding day with her brilliant smile, she knew where we were going, who we were meeting, what were their concerns and dreams, and even more importantly, she cared. She was a great listener and a gentle but strong advocate for her husband. In short, she reminded me of Mother. I had 4 young children when Mark ran for governor. Daddy was long gone by then. Mark was someone I could believe in, and I did every day of his way too short life. Mark and I did not always agree about everything in politics. That is the genius of the big tent politics we share. And governors all, I'm so glad we're here together to show that we all can come together to stand up for Mark White and for Texas. It allowed for liberals and conservatives and everybody in between to try to find a way to work together for the greatest good, for the greatest number. It is a time I long to return to. I did not share Mark's support of the death penalty when he was governor, but just as my father's support for civil rights evolved over time, so did Mark's over this ultimate civil rights issue. Mark's commitment to the Innocence Project in later years recognized that too often people are executed because poverty and race have resulted in them being inadequately defended. When their innocence is proven after their wrongful execution, their lives cannot be resurrected. Justice Felix Frankfurter once said, "Wisdom too often never comes, so one ought not to reject it merely because it comes late." I feel he could have been talking about Mark White. This weekend, I told my daughter Claudia, who is also born on March 17th, of Mark's death. I didn't expect her to remember him as we had moved to Canada when she was just 8 years old. But she told me I could never forget Governor White. In 1983, Governor and Mrs. White gave you a We Love Lucy party in your honor at the governor's mansion because you helped raise the money for a professorship at the University of Texas School of Nursing in Austin. I may have been little, but when your mother is being honored at the governor's mansion, you never forget it. I've always loved the Whites for loving you. This past Monday, UT Austin called me about a professorship to honor their first nursing school dean, who had helped me back in 1983. I was hard at work on this tribute and was tempted to postpone the call. But then I thought of Mark. He may have retired from public office, but he never retired from public service. Until the day he died, Mark never postponed his effort to do right. I know. I worked with him on MD Anderson's board of visitors. I saw him actively participating in public life on every level, on whatever issues of the day we faced. And he was always prepared to suffer the consequences. So I answered the call for the school and got to work. May Mark's example keep us all answering the call to do right, no matter the consequences. I loved you, Mark.